Hello everybody, how are you guys? The reaction to these community profiles here in Pittsburgh is off the charts, and this video is going to be about Mount Washington. That's right, Mount Washington, if you're not from the area, is across the river and is unbelievable. And that word I use a lot, but in this case it really applies because the views of downtown and the city and the hills and the whole basin is crazy, guys. And you go up and you get out of the car and you look down from one of the vantage points. Go ahead and go online and look for pictures of Mount Washington views of the city. It'll blow you away. Even just that photo online, whatever, Google Images, whatever you got. So this video is going to talk about the history of Mount Washington, how it came about, and a little bit of context so that you can enjoy that community even more. It's one of the highest profile communities in Pittsburgh. Everybody knows Mount Washington, mainly for its views, but also for the pricey real estate that you could imagine that those kind of views garners, and that it's been such an important part of the city from the beginning. Like, it's just across the water. So that area developed soon as one of the first suburbs of the town, of course, and they didn't make a tunnel until Mount Lebanon, for example, till 1924. So the area just south of Pittsburgh, across the water, has an important role in the development of the city. Now, why is it named Mount Washington? Well, back in the day, believe it or not, Pittsburgh was considered the western frontier. And George Washington vacationed here all the time. And he had a house right on Mount Washington, because in those days, guys, it wasn't a matter of you couldn't find a place. It was name your spot. So George Washington, being the crafty and resourceful guy that he was, said to Martha, let's go up on that big hill and knock down some trees and let's start living. And that's where they had one of several vacation homes that they had throughout the frontier. But Pittsburgh was always a favorite because they could still get work done. There was a fort here. So if he had to send Pony Express back and forth to Washington, D.C., he could do that. And it wasn't that far away. You know, Pittsburgh, in terms of, certainly today, is not that far away from the East Coast, but in those days still was not that far, even given that you had to ride in the storm out, waiting for the fallout, right? So they built a 4-story house, mansion, overlooking the city. And they had 7 or 8 kids, the Washingtons, and what he did was, this is kind of interesting, he built a swing that could go out over the incline is very steep there. So he built a swing that you could swing out over the incline. So picture, it's almost like a cliff, basically. So picture being able to swing out over an unbelievably steep cliff, which should scare the heck out of you. And he did it just because the kids loved it. They would scream, and it almost felt like you were going to swing into the city, right? It's hard to describe. The view from there is just crazy. So it feels like when you're on that super swing that he built, that you're going to go flying off the swing and land right at the confluence of the 3 rivers. It's insane. So Mount Washington is one of the original suburbs, one of the original outliers, or outlying communities from the Pittsburgh city proper, meaning inside the 3 rivers, or inside the Y, you could say. And so it has an important role in the history of the city, and of course, named after one of the founders of the country. Now, here in Pittsburgh, beyond just hanging out in the house and going on the giant swing, they did like to cross the bridge into the city and have a few cocktails. Martha and George were not big drinkers, but they had a few cocktails now and then, a couple ports, as they said in those days. And there was a decent nightlife where you're looking at Lawrenceville, over to Oakland. The University of Pittsburgh was founded right about that time. So they like to go hang out with the students. The students would ask them questions about the Revolutionary War. George would tell some stories. Martha would tell some jokes. They kind of had a George Burns and Gracie act going there. But everybody appreciated it, and they loved Pittsburgh. And guys, if you come here, you'll know why. I grew up a Browns fan. Pittsburgh was the enemy. But I'd only been here one time for a Penguins game. But I'm telling you, if you come here and spend some time, no matter if you're a Browns fan or not, you'll start to enjoy the city and find out what it's all about. Go up to Mount Washington. This is what you do. This is on your bucket list. You need to go to Pittsburgh on a clear, sunny day. Perhaps the sun is setting, the golden hour they call it, 4 to 6 p.m., 4 to 7 p.m., depending on if it's summer or winter, and go up on Mount Washington across the river and look back down at the city. If your head doesn't blow off your body to where we have to reattach it with staples, baling wire, thread that your grandma handed down to your mom and your mom gave to you that hopefully you could use to hem your pants, but you never did because you tried hemming your pants, but God, threading that needle took like an hour. The hemming was hard enough, but try to thread the needle, it's impossible. So you just went down to the tailor and had them do it for $5, $10, $15, whatever it was, $30. So if your head doesn't blow off your body, I will be surprised because, guys, it's that amazing. And that concludes our look at Mount Washington, one of the top communities in the great, great city of Pittsburgh. Come back for more, guys. And this has been a Joe Ditzel parody.